You erased the messages, blocked their number, told yourself if Allah wanted it, it would have stayed. But months later, maybe even years, why does her name still echo in your du'a? Not as obsession, not as sin, but as a whisper right before you say Ameen. What if this isn't weakness? What if it's a sign from Allah that the story isn't over yet? You erased the chats. You deleted the pictures. You forced yourself to stop checking their name online. You said, if it was written, it would have worked. You did all the right things. Blocked them. Made du'a. Tried to move forward. Tried to convince yourself it was over. And yet, there's this quiet ache. Not every day. Not always loud. But on certain nights, when you're laying in bed after Isha, eyes closed and heart wide open, their name slips into your prayer, not begging for them to come back, not hoping to reverse time, but just a soft mention, a whisper, not obsession, just a wound that never sealed. And you wonder, why does their memory still linger in the space between your hands when you make du'a? You didn't ask for this feeling to stay. You tried to kill it, but it resurfaces in sujud. It finds you during istikhara. It visits you when you least expect it. On Fridays, on lonely mornings, in the soft adhan at far. You're not in love anymore. You're not even sure what this emotion is. It's not longing. It's not hope. It's just something unfinished, unanswered. And maybe you're not crazy. Maybe your heart isn't weak. Maybe this feeling, this quiet echo, is Allah preserving a door you thought was shut. You wonder, is this nafs? Or is this a sign? Am I stuck in the past? Or is something ahead waiting to unfold? You keep asking Allah for clarity. But instead of answers, you're given silence, stillness, delays, redirections. You pray, Ya Allah, if it's not good for me, remove it from my heart. And still, the dream returns. Still, their name comes to your lips. Still, you feel something when they're mentioned. So now you're caught between surrender and confusion, between letting go and what if, between trusting Allah and questioning your own feelings. But maybe the real problem is that you're waiting for closure. And Allah doesn't always give you closure, because sometimes He's not closing the story. He's rewriting it, not the way you imagined, not when you expected, but in the background, through time, tests, and taqwa. And that's the hardest kind of waiting. Not the kind where you know it's over, but the kind where your heart whispers maybe while your mind says move on. Maybe this isn't punishment. Maybe it's purification. Maybe Allah is preparing both of you, separately, privately, painfully, so that if your paths ever do cross again, you'll meet with more Aman, less ego, more sujud, less pride, more Allah, less dunya. But for now, you wait, not passively, but faithfully. You heal, not because it's easy, but because you believe in what's written. And even if this isn't your qadr, you trust that Allah sees your heart, even when you try to hide it. You're not weak because you remember. You're not sinful because your chest tightens when their name comes up in a conversation. Memory isn't a flaw. It's a mark of meaning. What you felt was real. And just because it didn't last doesn't mean it was worthless. Some people walk into your life not to stay, but to awaken parts of you that were asleep. They remind you what it means to feel, what it means to hope, what it means to be seen. And when they leave, it feels like you lost a mirror, not because they were perfect, not because they were yours, but because in their presence, you learn things about your soul that silence never taught you. Maybe that's why their absence stings in strange places. In the Quran recitation that sound like their favorite surah. In the ayah about patience that hits differently now. In the moment right before du'a, when your hands lift but your heart trembles. You don't ask for them, not directly. But Allah knows. He hears the part you don't say out loud. The pause, the breath, the tear that falls before the words even form. And sometimes that's more sincere than anything else. You ask Allah for healing. But healing doesn't always mean forgetting. Sometimes it means being able to remember without breaking, to recall them without wanting to call them. And that takes time. More time than the world tells you it should. This is not a movie. There is no montage with soft music and a 30-day glow-up. This is real. And in real life, healing has relapses. Some days you feel free. Other days, a scent or a word or a dream takes you right back. And you feel like you've undone all your progress. But you haven't. That moment of pain doesn't erase your growth. It confirms it. Because now you don't chase it. You don't text them. You don't spiral. You just breathe through it. You whisper Hasbi Allah. You make wudu. You open the Quran instead of their chat. And maybe that is the sign. Not that the ache is gone, but that you've changed. You no longer beg for their love. You beg Allah for peace. You no longer seek their return. You seek your Rab. That's not weakness. That's transformation. You still remember them. But now, you remember yourself, too. The version of you that prayed. The version of you that had adab and heartbreak. The version of you that still lifted their name in du'a even after they walked away. That version of you is beloved to Allah. And maybe, just maybe, that's why He's delaying everything else. Because you become someone who loves more sincerely, who asks more carefully, who surrenders more deeply. And if they ever return, you'll greet them not with desperation, but with dignity. And if they don't, you'll smile knowing that you still honored them in the most beautiful way by praying for them, even when they weren't praying for you. There's something sacred about the moment you finally stop asking, why didn't it work out? And start asking, what was I meant to learn? Because not every connection is meant to complete you. Some are meant to correct you. Some were never love, just loud longing, just hope in the wrong vessel, just attachment wrapped in religious language. And it felt holy, but it was hollow. You called it a sign. You said it's meant to be. You made a stickera, but deep down you already knew the answer. You just didn't want to accept it. Because when you crave something, your heart starts building signs out of anything. Their text becomes a sign. Their silence becomes a test. Their return becomes fate. And their departure becomes betrayal. But maybe, just maybe, their walking away was the answer. Not because they were bad. Not because you were unworthy. But because Allah knew your heart was building a home where it could never rest. Love without Allah is always exhausting. And you were tired. Tired of waiting for replies. Tired of decoding silence. Tired of asking, did I say too much? Am I not enough? But you were never the problem. Your love wasn't the issue. It was where you placed it. You gave them the emotional real estate that belonged to your Creator. You sought signs in their actions instead of your stickera. You begged for closeness and forgot that distance can be a mercy in disguise. Sometimes Allah removes someone not to punish you, but to protect your du'a. The one where you asked Him to bring you closer to Him. The one where you whispered, Ya Allah, protect me from what is not written for me. And so He did, and it broke you, but it also birthed you, a newer you, a quieter you, a more sincere you, one who still misses them sometimes, yes, but one who doesn't chase anymore. Because now you know what's written for you won't confuse you. It won't keep you up at night begging for clarity. It won't make you question your worth every other day. It will feel peaceful. It will make sujud easier. It will bring you closer to Quran, not further. And until then, you don't need closure from them. You already got it from Allah. It came the night you cried on your musalla and finally let them go, not because you stopped caring, but because you started trusting there's a moment in healing that no one talks about. It's not the crying, not the breaking, not even the letting go. It's the quiet that comes after, when you stop checking their profile, stop hoping they'll reach out, stop replaying old memories like they're still yours to hold. And suddenly, it's just still. No more noise. No more waiting. No more making du'a with one eye on your phone. Just you, your Lord, and a heart that finally wants peace more than it wants answers. Because healing doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like emptiness. Like what now? Like standing in a room where the chaos used to be and realizing you have no idea who you are without the noise. But that's where the real work begins. You start remembering who you were before the overthinking, before the late-night over-explaining, before you started measuring your worth by someone else's attention. You remember how soft your heart was, how much light you carried, before you started trying to force love where it didn't belong. And now, you're not begging for signs anymore. You're not asking, was it a test or a punishment? Because you know now, even mercy can come dressed as heartbreak. Even rejection can be an answer to duʿā. Even silence can be a divine reply. And the irony, the moment you stop looking for a sign, Allah gives you one. You hear your soul breathe again. You wake up with a little less heaviness. You open the Quran and suddenly the words feel personal, like they were written just for you. And they were. You start laughing again, not the forced kind, but the kind that comes from knowing you didn't lose. You were redirected. And maybe that heartbreak was the doorway to your real love story, the one between you and your Lord. Because if someone's absence taught you how to fall back in love with your ṣalāh, if it brought you to tahajjud, if it made you cry to Allah instead of people, then it wasn't a loss. It was a bridge. And now you walk it, one quiet step at a time, not toward them. People think moving on looks like forgetting, smiling more, posting again, acting like nothing ever touched you. But you know better. Moving on didn't look like perfection for you. It looked like resistance, resisting the urge to message them, resisting the urge to reopen doors that Allah clearly closed, resisting the whisper that said, just one more time, just one more reply. No one saw the war you fought in your own chest. You looked calm on the outside, but inside, you were deleting photos, unsaving voice notes, and wrestling with memories that refused to leave quietly. You weren't just trying to forget them. You were trying to remember yourself. And slowly, painfully you did. You remembered the version of you that existed before the over-apologizing, before the constant wondering if you were enough, before your emotions became a puzzle they didn't want to solve. You remembered how deeply you loved, how sincere your intentions were, how many times you prayed for clarity, even when you didn't like the answer. And that's when something shifted. Not suddenly, but gently. You started choosing silence over unnecessary closure. You stopped needing them to validate your pain. You realized they don't have to understand your hurt in order for your healing to be valid. You stopped imagining what could have been and started building what will be, a life that isn't stitched together by someone else's attention, a heart that no longer runs in circles chasing what ifs and almosts, a soul that trusts what Allah removed, even if it still stings some nights. And maybe you still remember them, but not with longing anymore, with acceptance. Because now you know. You don't miss them. You miss who you were trying to become for them. But you don't need to become that person anymore. You're becoming someone better. For you, for Allah, for the future that was always meant for you. And maybe one day, someone will enter your life who won't make you question your worth, your boundaries, or your softness. But until then, this chapter, this sacred loneliness, it's not punishment. It's a divine cocoon. And when you finally rise from it, it won't be because you moved on. It'll be because you rose, but toward Him. Now you've reached that sacred stillness, the place where your heart doesn't beg anymore. It whispers du'ās, but it doesn't chase. You don't force signs. You don't stalk timelines. You don't sit up wondering what they meant by take care. Because you finally understood something deep. What's meant for you will not need convincing. It will not confuse you. It will not come wrapped in chaos and leave you in doubt. It will feel like peace, like du'as being answered without words, like your soul recognizing its mirror, and your Lord giving permission for it to stay. So no, you're not bitter. You're not cold. You're just no longer available for the kind of love that made you shrink yourself to be seen. You know now, if Allah removed them, it was protection, not punishment. You know now, when Allah delays something, He's teaching you that what's next is greater than what's gone. So you stop waiting for the knock on your door. You stop obsessing over if they cared, they'd... You let go, not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself now. Your deen, your peace, your growth, You return to your Quran. You reconnect with your ṣalāh. You start rebuilding not just your life, but your eternity. And in that sacred space, Allah starts to feel what they couldn't. He replaces your restlessness with contentment, your confusion with clarity, your waiting with preparation. So if someone comes, they'll find you whole, not hollow. And if no one comes, you're not empty. You're enough. You're surrounded by angels, by blessings, by the quiet mercy of the Lord who never left you in your heartbreak, even when you thought he was silent. So let what's meant for you find you. Let it arrive in Allah's time, not yours. Until then, live, heal, pray, grow, because this peace you found, this soft strength in your chest, this version of you that finally knows their worth, it was always the point, not the love, not the person, but the return to yourself, to Allah, to the kind of love that never confuses you, because it was never meant to leave.